a simple coach to coach interview. I do appreciate you taking the time to sit in the hot seat, as I like to say. But no, thank you very much. Do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, you say that now. You say that now. Hey, you're a rookie, so you've never been on the channel. But maybe you could just start by telling me sort of your soccer journey and how you ended up in the seat you're in.
Yeah, it's a longer one, so I'll try to make it somewhat concise for you a little bit. But yeah, I've been around the game for a majority of my life. I knew coaching was going to be probably a big part of my life early on. I got my first coaching license when I was 15, so I was really into it from a pretty young age. I like a neighborhood friend kind of stumbled on me like training in the front yard and asked if I wanted to help out with his 9-year-old kids team, and that just kind of I don't think I ever looked back from there. And then played at two different schools. I started off at Drew University. Lenny had been my club coach a little bit, so ended up there at a time in the program where I think when I was a junior in high school, that program went to the national final. So a really good team, some really talented guys on that team. Wasn't maybe the right fit for me at the time. I ended up leaving. Came home, was kind of doing the JUCO stuff, played in Garden State League teams and stuff like that, just trying to find my way, and then ended up transferring to William Patterson in an era of William Patterson's program that was quite good. I was really lucky to get involved in that program. Coach Woods was really good to me, and the guys that I played with are guys that I'm still close with to this time. And all throughout that time, I was coaching. So I was coaching lots of different club teams, and then as things were kind of finishing at William Patterson playing wise. I ended up working in a club called Matchfit in New Jersey, working with some of their DA teams and pre-academy teams when I was quite young. And then I got into the college coaching game at Arcadia, which was my first stop. I was an assistant there for 2 years, working with a guy, Rob Neidick, who was super helpful to me in terms of like learning management of program and structure of program and recruiting. It was a really good first stop for me for a variety of different reasons. Left Arcadia, had an opportunity at Lafayette in the Patriot League. I was in the Patriot League for 2 years with Dennis Bond, another like storied program. He's had a lot of success in the Patriot League, so working there was really helpful in seeing like the details of what it takes to function at that kind of standard. From there, I took on my own program at Manhattanville, Division III program out in like Westchester, New York. Yeah, I was there in 2017 and 2018. It was before the program left to go to the Skyline, so my 2 years there were the last 2 years that the program was in the MAC. Had a really good time there. It was awesome to experience being a head coach and like the weight of making decisions. I think assistant coaches, I think I have a strong feeling of this. Like assistant coaches are allowed to have opinions, right? But I think head coaches ultimately have to make decisions. And I think like you have to feel the weight of what that is. It doesn't mean that assistant coaches' opinions aren't important. They are. Yeah. But the head coach has to feel what the decision making is. And I think I got the opportunity to do that at Manhattanville. And it was good. I learned a lot of good things about what I wanted and maybe what I didn't want. And then the Penn opportunity came about. And I was at Penn from 2019 until 2024, and that was definitely the most important experience of my career. Coach Gill for me is one of the best coaches in the country. Working with someone with a brain like that was incredible. Working with the players there was amazing. We had so many good guys, so many good players, so many good assistant coaches that we worked with. It was like a very transformational moment in my career to kind of take a step back and work with someone that was really going to push your standard in every way, and players that were going to push your standard in every way. And really, really enjoyed my time there. And then the TCNJ opportunity opened. And I was really excited about it. I think it was a place that I always had circled for a very long time that I was very excited about. I'm a New Jersey guy through and through. I grew up in Central Jersey, so I think from a distance I had opinions of it, and I felt like, man, TCNJ could be this incredible place. It's so unique in lots of ways. I think it has so much potential to be super nationally relevant. There's a lot of things we have to do to get there. But it checked all the boxes for me. It's an incredible academic institution. The retention here is very high. The athletic department is structured in a very D1 type way in terms of how things go, how things are run here. It was a type of brain that I wanted to work with. I really liked working with higher academic kids at both Penn and Lafayette. So that kind of fit that mold for me. And then cost wise, yeah, I mean, it's incredible. The quality of the education compared to what the cost is here is amazing. I think we can recruit against some really academic institutions that are maybe coming in way higher than us price wise. So I think as our soccer catches up, which I hope it does, I think we're on the right track to that. Our academics are already there. I mean, that's the foundation of it. So the TCNJ opportunity was something that I was waiting for a while. And when it opened, I was pretty excited about trying to get an opportunity to interview for it, and I did, and it worked out, and now we're here. So
Yeah. Did you? I'm just curious. Did you aspire to Division One? Because you went to Lafayette, you went to Penn, or was it just sort of that? Just felt like the natural progression of things. It wasn't. You weren't so.
did I want to be a Division One?
Correct. Was that
head
sort
coach or Division One
yeah.
assistant coach?
No, either or was it just, hey, this is the next stop and I can learn a lot, so I'm going to take it?
I think the development aspect of someone's career has got to be put at a premium in terms of what you're trying to get out of it. And I think both Lafayette, I love my time at Arcadia. It was great, but I think Lafayette provided an opportunity where it's like, okay, there's going to be so much that I get from this experience that I probably have to go do this. The Penn one was probably, I think more people asked me well, why would you leave being a head coach to go back to being an assistant coach?
Yeah.
And I mean, it was the best decision I ever made. I mean, I couldn't have made a better decision for myself. My wife was in full support of it. It was a crazy time because I was having my first kid kind of at the same time. My son was born on July 7th. I think we moved on July 10th. So it was kind of a crazy process in 2019. But I just wanted to go somewhere. I think while I was at Manhattanville, there was a part of me that was like, man, I wish I got to work with one more coach and one more staff and one more collection of players that was going to really push my standard. Wherever I went from after Penn, that was to be determined. I think I wanted the right fit. The level, Division One or Division Three, actually that really wasn't something I was too concerned about. I think I wanted the right fit, and more of the fit was high academic, high retention, athletic department that was going to be structured and stable and supportive. And TCNJ hit all those things. And like I said, I'm a Jersey guy. I want to put it back on the map. So even though I didn't play at the school, for whatever the reason is, it means something to me. It's important to me. So I want to give back to that community.
TCNJ is, it's like a flagship school in the state, right? It carries a lot of weight, and like you said, it's high academic at a state school, basically, right? It's a high academic state school, and that's what you pay. That's what you get for the money you pay, and having gone through the recruiting process there, it is tremendously affordable. That's for sure.
Yeah.
In comparison to some of the other places. So I could totally get. Not to mention the facilities are.
Incredible.
Yeah.
We're really structured in a D1 way, the way the department's set up. I think I could take a lot of the blueprint that we were running at Penn, and I can do a lot of the same things that we were doing at Penn here, which was exciting to me. So,
what did you learn more at Penn? The soccer or the administration of a program?
I think there's probably a couple different things. One, I learned a lot there. Like I said, Coach Gill is, he's incredible. And all the assistants that I worked with too, all gave something to the program in lots of ways. I think the soccer for sure. I think it was interesting because as I was leaving Manhattanville and coming to Penn, a lot of where my brain was maybe going with the soccer is kind of where Penn's kind of philosophy was. Oddly enough, it just kind of coincided. The shape they play in, the setup, the things that are critical to them were kind of already going off in my brain of I think that's something that means a lot to me in my soccer. It means a lot to me in my coaching philosophy. So that stuff was lining up. So to go there and to be already kind of be buying into that kind of setup and then seeing it at the highest level was okay, wow, there's more to this that I can coach, and there's more I can take in terms of getting a team structured to play like that. But I think other things that the bigger picture items, because you're always going to take soccer things from places you are, right? Whether it's stuff you're taking from the coaches you're working with, the players you're working with, like all the scouting work that we did at Penn, like you're just taking from other coaches too. Like I used to love watching, like having to do a scouting report against a team that was very good because it's really clear what they're going to do, and you can like really start to get into the brain of the opponent. Like, oh, I understand why they're doing that, and that makes sense, and that gives you like different things to think about in your own coaching. But I think other things that were like critical to take away from Penn, man management was a big one. I think like the volume of conversations you have to have with players to make sure that there's transparency and relationship to your connection is important, because I think like players want to know how much you care about them. They don't always care about how much you know. So there has to be that kind of connection, and I think it was a high emphasis on the program at Penn, coming from the top down. And then I think like just training environment. I think like when I got here to TCNJ, it was like, okay, well, that's something that we need to change drastically and fast, and it's something that we can, because I was coming out of the best training environment I've been in my career. I think like more or less what I mean by that is every day the guys came out of Penn and they wanted to get better individually and collectively, and I think the coaching staff never took that for granted. I think every time we came out to coach, we were excited to coach the team and develop the team and get guys to get even 1% better on the day. So being in that environment with that kind of understanding of training habit, training discipline, mentality, like that was like really powerful to be a part of at Penn. And then trying to infiltrate that here, that was maybe one of the first things, because that will then have direct correlation to culture, which I think is such a buzzword that people just kind of like skate over a little bit. But it's like there's certain things you could be really intentional with to get your culture going. And I felt like those three things, soccer, management, training environment, it's like, hey, how do I get this stuff kind of going into what this project's going to look like for us? Yeah. But yeah, there was so much I took from Penn. Like I said, it was incredible. It was the best decision I ever made. I love those guys. It was a really special place to be.
Funny that you talk about culture as being a buzzword, because I think a lot. I think there's a lot of coaches, they talk about it, but it's not something that is necessarily intentional. Like it just sort of, they're more, I don't mean this in a bad way. They're just sort of like, our culture is sort of the way it's defined by the team, and it just sort of happens, and rather than being the driver of what your program looks like. And I think, which is a lot harder, right? Because then you need buy-in and you need all that stuff. So.
It definitely starts from the top. I think like the way we act, the way I act, the way the staff acts, like what our expectation is on one another, kind of trickles down into what the expectation is of the players. And the word you said there is something I talk about to the guys all the time. If we want to be better at anything, we got to be super intentional about it. So if we want something to change in our culture, we got to like identify it and then be super intentional about how to rectify it or how to change it or how to get it into a different way. Whether, again, that could be anything that we're doing, soccer, non-soccer, but intentionality is everything in terms of development, whether soccer or non-soccer in your program, I think.
When were you hired? When did you start?
March. So it was a little bit later. They went through a little bit of an intro process.
How much? I'm only asking. I mean, not that it. I'm like, how much recruiting were you able to do for this class, or was it pretty much all baked in?
None of it was baked in. Yeah, there was some stuff that had been done. I think that the guy who was here as an intern guy, he's a younger kid, and he did the best he could. He's a really good guy, and he worked really hard. I think it was a tough setup in terms of recruiting of like, well, they didn't know who was coming in. So he definitely had some conversations with the guys. It wasn't like there was nothing going on. But in terms of like actual commitments, there wasn't really anybody committed at that point. I lucked out. I think like while I was at Penn, I had been working for a club in South Jersey in the MLS Next called Real. It was called Real Jersey. It's called Real Football Academy now. And I should have maybe alluded to this before. I've lived in Central Jersey the entire time I was at Penn as well. So I've lived in Lawrence the entire time I was at Penn. So I was going to Penn. I'd be at Penn all morning and throughout the day, obviously, and then whenever our day would end in the afternoon, 2 of the days of the week in the winter and the spring, I was driving back up 295 and then stopping at Real, and I help out with like the 15s, 16s, 17s, and 19s MLS Next team. So I've been around some, like, that helped because we took 3 kids from the club once I got the job that they were uncommitted, that I kind of had my teeth in a little bit, that I had relationships with. So those 3 guys committed to us, and they were really important. And then, like, we had like some interesting like relationships. Again, TCNJ is such an incredible and powerful place. One of our goalkeepers, we had 2 really good freshman goalkeepers in our team this year. One of them who ended up kind of becoming the mainstay starter. He won goalkeeper of the year in our league as a freshman. His sister is a really good player on the women's team here. His dad had played on the team in the 90s, so there was a connection there. So we lean into that. Another one of our freshmen, his brother is on the team here. So we had like all these kind of connections. There was a kid that I worked with at a bunch of camps. That was a Seton Hall prep kid that was still uncommitted. So I just had this list. I think it was tough for me as like the process was going on, hiring process. It was like I had this list in my head, and you're seeing guys commit elsewhere. Like, oh, that would have been a good one. Oh, that would have been a good one. And oh, that would have been a good one. But at the end, like some of those guys were. I mean, we started 6 new guys this year. We started 6 first-year guys, and out of 9. And then 2 of those guys were pretty regular guys off the bench for us. So it worked out to be a really good class. But we were kind of alert to guys that might be available, and then I attacked kind of quickly away as fast as I could. So
no, because I know depending on the timing, you don't really have a say in your first year, which is always, to me, strikes me as a bummer, right? Like you kind of want to, and you really can't because you're not getting that's why
I lucked out. I lucked out with that. Yeah, I was able to bring in 9 guys, and 6 of them were critical to us. So
okay, so now the hard question.
Okay.
The one I always ask new guys, like, were you hired with a purpose? Did TCNJ say, hey, we are giving you the keys to the soccer program, and this is what we want you to do?
I think TCNJ is one of the most successful athletic departments in all of Division III sports. It's a athletic department that has 40 national championships to its name. So, I mean, there's like a listen. I don't think there's like a. I think there's a desire for teams here to be competitive, and I think our program is a program that in the 90s was at the highest level, winning a national championship, going to 2 finals, going to Final Fours, going to Elite Eights. Like I think that era of alums look at the program and are kind of like, well, why is it? Where is it right now? So I think there's like an emphasis even inside our program that there's a goal to get back to that kind of place. I think like we have to be very process focused to get there. But in terms of like, did I come in and they were like, we want you to do like win X amount or Y amount? No, I mean that wasn't talked about. I think it was more like getting the culture right, getting the training environment right, getting the recruiting right, and then I think I think they wanted to hire a competitive person that had a desire to try to win. I think I stole it from another coach once. I listened to another coach speak, and I think he's a brilliant mind, and he talked about people are afraid of talking about winning. Winning always has to be the goal. It is the goal. You're not in sport to do anything but. It has to be the goal. I think people get confused with goals and purpose. Winning's not the purpose here. I don't like. It's the goal though. Every time we play, we want to try to play to win. Whether that's a game, that's an inter squad game, whether that's stuff we do in training. Like everything we do in training is scored. Like we want to win all the time, but I think the purpose has to be that we want to develop players and we want to move forwards as best we can in every avenue possible on and off the field. So in terms of like, did they hire me with an expectation of that? No, I don't think that was it. But I think when you come to a place like this where you look around and you see some of the success of some of the other coaches and the other programs, and like, I mean, you're feeling that a little bit, which I want it. I want that. And everybody here is great. Everybody's super supportive. We have great administration. We have great support staff. We have great coaches. It's an incredible place. I'm super happy to be here.
You can't help but be at a place like TCNJ and have people like just look at you and be like, why aren't you like the women's team?
Sure.
Like, why aren't you like hoops, or why aren't you like something and you can't help that comparison. You just can't, because it's littered with super top-notch athletes and programs. Like it just
Yep.
has a history of it, right? And why aren't you
Yeah.
like exactly? Why aren't
Yeah.
you like that team from the '90s? Where's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. But I think we're like excited. I'm excited about that. I want to be somewhere with ambition. I don't get afraid of it. I don't think our guys are afraid of it. I think we flourish in that stuff. We're excited about that stuff. So
I say this, and I like I said, I know a lot of alums. I knew former coach. I knew all this, and I've always said, like, TCNJ is one of those schools in my mind that is easily, you could say, should be a top 20 school in soccer,
Sure.
consistently, and not have these like one-offs. And I don't mean to put pressure on you, but right, like you have. And I've been to tons of schools. I can't even remember how many, like that I've seen, right? And you're just TCNJ is just uniquely positioned, as we talked about. Has all of these things that come together and that make that possible. And I just think it's a matter of doing the time and doing the work and putting in the hard work, right? And I think that's
Well, the potential is exciting.
Yeah.
Potential. I told everybody as I was going through the process that the potential of the program, all of that outweighs any of the challenges that I'll face early on. I think we're what you said, the platform is incredible. It could be really special here. So
Hey, this is another troubling question, so I apologize. I mean, I'm just going to ask you what was the first different thing you did?
First different thing I did with the guys?
Yes,
in terms of what was going on?
Yeah. Like you come in, hey, it's March, happy everybody, I'm a new guy.
Yeah.
We're going to do things differently, and the first thing we're going to do differently is.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think like, again, I think we started off like well. I came in like early March. I think my first interaction with the guys was a meeting on a Friday. And I think that meeting was like a couple things. I wanted to educate. One, I wanted to make sure the guys understood that I'm a relationship-based person, and I wanted to create relationships with them, and I wanted them to understand that I wasn't there to do anything but to help and move us forward. So I think because I think there's like some anxiety there, probably a little bit, myself with them and vice versa. But I think that first meeting was like very clear cut, like what simple expectations are in terms of training regimen, training habits, on the field, off the field stuff, while not overwhelming them. And then, another thing that I quickly did in the first meeting was alert the guys to the history of our program and the success that the program had. So I think like some of it was like housekeeping stuff, like, hey, when we train, this is the time you need to be in the locker room. This is what you need to wear. If you don't wear that, then you're not going to be training. Like we have all these things that are structured in a very Division I way. We have our own locker room. We use it year round. We don't share it with anybody. We have an equipment staff that will do the laundry for the guys all the time. Like they have all this gear. They have all these things, and I don't think it was being maybe functioned in a way that of the world I come from that's very detailed and very organized and very structured, which I appreciated a lot at Penn. And I kind of took all of that stuff to here. I think like everything we do is super detailed, very structured, and getting that in place with the guys kind of right away was important. And then alerting the guys to the history of the program. But in terms of like the relationship based stuff, like I met with the guys on Friday as a team. And then all of Saturday and all of Sunday that weekend, I was in the office having individual meetings with the guys because then I had to train the group on Monday. So it was like, well, I felt like I needed to connect with some of the guys, as many as I could, before I trained the group on Monday. And then we had to change some training times because we had a lot of class conflict type stuff. So we were going early in the morning when I first got here in March, which I think was good. I think it kind of built up some character in our team. And then I think, then the training environment stuff started to come out a little bit. But early days was like simple expectations of how program runs, history of program, and then relationships like right away. Trying to make sure the guys felt comfortable having conversations with me and not being too standoffish with them.
What was the first thing that surprised you?
About the team or about like
Yeah,
the
about the
dynamic of the
team.
school?
Sure.
There's
Yeah.
super talent. There's a couple super talented guys that I inherited.
Yeah.
Like which I knew. I mean, I did a lot of homework in terms of like going through the process.
Mhm.
I watched many TCNJ games on film in my spare time. I cut and broke down a lot of those games. I had a lot of data collected of things they were doing playing wise. So I had a very clear idea of like, okay, well, these things aren't maybe going super well, and these are ways you could fix these things in terms of the way my brain kind of processes the
Mhm.
game. So I knew a lot of the players just from either watching lots of film. One or two of the players I had worked with in the past in a club environment,
Mhm.
very like in a very small window. But yeah, I mean, I came in. I definitely inherited some guys that were quite good for us. I mean, our the two guys that play in the front two, Chris Meter and Mati Hornos. Those guys are they're really talented players. One's a match fit guy, one's a PDA guy. JJ's
Mhm.
on was super important. Like and the list can go on. Like I
Yeah.
think like people from the outside could look at it and be like, oh man, you're gonna have to get rid of everything. You're gonna have to bring everything in. It's like yeah, I mean, listen, there's always gonna be some like transitioning when a new coach comes in. That was always going to happen, and I think I was lucky to get that recruiting class kind of set and brought in. But yeah, we had a pretty successful season, and there were some guys that were here for a long time that were a huge piece of that success.
Yeah.
Their buy-in, their commitment to it, their ability to be excited to get coached. So yeah, I think that was probably the biggest thing, that I inherited some really talented players, but I already knew that. And I think their buy-in to me right away was probably another thing. I am like a pretty specific person. I want things a pretty specific way. I'm maybe unapologetic about some of those things, and very like committed to doing things the way I think that they should be done. And yeah, sometimes that's challenging, but I think the guys were excited for structure. They were excited for learning. They were excited for development. So
Mhm.
I was getting a lot of like buy-in like straight away, because it wasn't just like like I said, it was relationship based, and it was teaching, and it was development, and that's where the focus was. So
Yeah.
I rambled there for you a little bit, but there's a
It's
there's a
okay.
bunch of things in there for you.
Rambling is a good thing, and when you're being
Yeah.
interviewed on my channel, like I'm okay with that. Um, I actually know JJ and played against him
Yeah.
in I'm a high school coach or assistant coach, and so I'm very familiar. My son played with them as well,
Okay.
and I know a couple of those guys through like those typical club interactions. Oh,
Yeah.
my son plays over here, and whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and I always thought that the foundations were there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the
They were
foundations
here.
were there, and I just think they just all needed to sort of be corralled in the right way, and then
Yeah.
you could, which I think is demonstrative, right? Last year the team won 2 games,
Yeah.
and here this year, what you were at 12, 11,
Oh,
yeah.
11. Yeah. I would have liked to
Yes.
have been at 12.
Huh?
I would have liked to have been at 12.
Yeah. What so this is hard, right? Because you go, this is what, by the way, not for nothing, and I'll say this, like, I do things differently in my own mind, and I will say that you're probably, in my book, if I made a trophy of a golden Rice Krispie treat, that would go to you for Coach of the Year, just because of
Oh,
I
thank you.
think the
I
dramatic.
appreciate that.
I just think it was dramatic. What was going on versus what happened this year, I think
Yeah.
was you saw a much more disciplined team, I think.
Yeah, I
and
appreciate that.
and the results
Yeah.
were there.
Yeah.
But, so this is hard though, right? Like now you make this jump, right? And I always say, like, once you make the jump, that's all good, right? But then
Yeah.
it gets to come down to like the super fine points to really take you
Yeah.
where
Take the
you
next
want to
step.
go.
Yep. Yep.
What are some of those finer things? What are some of the things you think that, I'll just say, the team needs to do? I'll just say it could be a program thing, it could be a cultural thing, whatever it is that you think is the next piece that you want to tackle, so that next year it's going to be 12 wins or 13 wins or what.
Yeah.
And you're going for the end, all of those things, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were close this year. I felt like I felt like we were playing some of our best soccer down the stretch, which is always exciting, right? Like I
Yeah.
think as a coach, you should always be happy that if you're ending the season, you're like, oh yeah, we're playing some good stuff. Like a lot of the things that we're been preaching and coaching, they're coming out in really good ways. I think the NJAC tournament for us was, yeah, some of
Fantastic.
us at our best. I think we did some really good stuff against some really good teams.
Dismantled
So
Montclair, by the way.
yeah, they're a
I'll
very
just say
good
that.
team. Yeah, they're a very good team, and I think for us to go out there against that program with all that history and tradition and do that was a cool experience to have. But I mean that there was a lot of things that kind of came together on the night
Yeah.
for it to go that way. But I don't know, like what's the next step for us? I don't know. Like I said to you before, like winning is definitely the goal. I mean, we want to do that, but we talked a lot because again, when the season started, what was my thought where the end could be? I didn't even really think about it. I just felt like I just want to keep getting better every week when I come back in on Monday as we prep for the next week. I just want to feel like we were better this week than we were last week.
Hmm.
And I think we talked a lot to the guys about a mantra of progress via process. So just be really committed to just kind of keep taking steps forward. Don't look at like anything too big, like a step being too big. Let's just keep taking baby steps to get to the places that we want to go. And wherever
Hmm.
we are at the end, that's where we are at the end. And I think like you got to be proud of the growth and development that we've had. And then I think as things started to roll, you start thinking like, oh, we're like in this, like we're really there. We're doing some good stuff. Like we're doing some good stuff.
We're
We're in
competing.
a
Look
pretty
at that.
yeah.
Right?
And again, it's something we talked about a ton. Competing is a pillar of our program. We talk about it all the time. It's a non-negotiable aspect of what we expect from our guys on an everyday basis. But like, yeah, what's next for us? What gets us to take the next step? I think we talked a lot about like there I think was a lot of quiet motivation in our team this year to try to get things right. And then I think like when we talked maybe at the end of the season, there was a lot of talk about like the theory of standing still. We don't
Yeah.
want to stand still. I think we want to keep moving. I think the moment that you stand still is the moment that people catch up or sprint past
Yeah.
you. And I think like we haven't arrived. We're still, there's so much to do. So I think like the group is still super motivated. I think we're going to be older next year, which will be helpful. I think like early in the year when you watch maybe some of our NJAC games, I think we had some young guys making young mistakes, which is
Making mistakes.
understandable. Not
Yeah.
not anything that I was upset with. Just like yeah, we
No.
got to experience those moments. We haven't
Yeah.
experienced that yet. Like that guy's
Yeah.
got to feel that moment and feel the consequence of that moment. And then by the end, I felt like we were yeah making less of those mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just the year of growth, the year being in the program, right? Like this group, soccer's so strange as a sport for college because like our team this fall really only properly trained together for the preseason and some of September. Because once we get into the NJAC games, we're playing every Wednesday and Saturday. With the
Yeah.
load management of what we're doing with the guys, we gotta be really careful what we're doing with guys on
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
days so that they're
Yeah.
feeling like they're peaking on Wednesday and Saturday. So I can't wait for the winter to start with the guys because it's another opportunity to really grow this group and then influx it with another hopefully good recruiting class. But I think the guys are ready. We talk a lot about like critical and trying to play critical plays and critical moments. The final, yeah, I thought we played well, but we didn't make enough critical plays and critical moments, and Rowan
Yeah.
did. And
Yeah.
they're an experienced group that has championship pedigree, and
They're very good.
They won
Like
games.
yeah. Yeah.
So we were in a tough spot there at the end.
Yeah. What you said you're excited for the when the guys get back, and I'll just say the spring in general. Like,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you want to focus in on? Is it more about capturing the detail? I always say it's about details, right? Like, is it more about capturing the details of how a team, I'll just say, acts on the field, works on the field?
I think like it's an opportunity to like overcoach your guys for an extended amount of time, right? I think
Mhm.
like we are. I think that our system and the way that we play. I think like you can take it all the way down to like the most minimal moments in a spring and a winter. You in the fall, you maybe have to start a
Yeah.
little bit further ahead because you
Yeah.
just don't have enough time, right?
Yeah.
And I think like you said, the detail of it, like we can functionally train a lot. We can be really intent with certain specific details, attacking and defensive.
Mhm.
We can do things a little bit different. And again, I think like the curriculum that we have in place for what the winter and spring is will be pretty similar curriculum to what we used this past winter and spring. It'll just be further out. I think the athletic development of our team needs to probably improve a little bit. Again, we're young, so we have guys that they haven't really been in a strength room, pretty regularly. There's different elements. I think that will help, because when those guys are playing big minutes in the fall, again, what their lifting is like, or what their fitness regimens are like. Different to what it is in the winter. You can really push in the winter and spring. And then the shared experiences of that group. I think close teams win close games, so just getting the group really close and buying into one another. They'll be around each other a lot in the winter and spring, so we're lucky to have our structure the way we have it.
I always say, well, I forget what's his name. Oh, it escapes me. Right, the best thing about a freshman is they become a sophomore, right? Like they just right. But also I heard somebody else say 15 pounds. It was like freshman gains 15 pounds. Some of it's not healthy pounds, some of it's healthy pounds, but they have an opportunity to actually then use that to bulk and be a little bit bigger than they were their freshman year, which is probably a little bit on the scrawnier side, right?
Yeah, well, that'll help us a little bit. Our league's a very physical league, so that'll
that's what I was saying. And in the end, Jack, which is why it's great. I was surprised that you were able to hang, because again, freshmen. I mean, this is a street fight half the time you're going into, and you need big, bulky guys who can sort of stand up to the physicality of it. Anyhow, where, if you're going to put on your divination hat, I don't know if that's a word, but your divining hat, what would you say? What does a successful fall look like? Right.
Next year?
Yeah. What does a successful to you? And I know you said, hey, just get better every day. But at some point, brass tacks, it's like, man, can I see it? I'm just throwing this out there. We're going to win the NJAC and we're going to make the tournament, because we're going to be that good and better. Right. And that's the expectation.
I think listen, I think those things are always hard to answer in certain ways, because I've kind of alluded to it before. Winning is definitely the goal. I mean, I think every program wants that. But I think if we're fixated on that, like the Ivy League used to be crazy with that stuff, and I'm so happy that there's an Ivy League tournament now, because when you were in the Ivy League and there's no Ivy League tournament, if you get a couple games in and it doesn't go great, it's really hard to motivate your group to keep going. So if you start talking to your team about those kind of things and it doesn't go the way you want it to go, and the game is cruel sometimes, you could be playing your best stuff and the game just doesn't go the way you want it to go. So I think we have to be really dialed into the stuff that we're talking about. I'll continue to lean back into the progress via process, because I think what gave the guys a lot of confidence as we got to the end of the year, we weren't really doing anything differently. We're just doing the same stuff over and over and over again. I think the consistency of our approach and the consistency of who we are and our identity gave the guys a lot of confidence and took a lot of anxiety away from the guys, that we were just kind of going out and doing what we were been coached to do throughout the entire season and the entire spring. So what does next year look like? Yeah, we want to keep making steps. We want to be in spots where we're competing, both in our conference and hopefully at some point nationally here. But our conference is so competitive and it's so tough, and there's so many good players and there's so many good coaches and there's programs with so much championship pedigree. I think we have to stay really dialed into just controlling us and getting better, and being really focused on being ultra competitive in our training sessions, so that when we get into a situation where a game is competitive, it's not something that we haven't experienced fully before. I think you got to be if you want your team to be competitive, you got to be intentional with creating competition in your training environment. So we've done a lot of that stuff.
I always say your training sessions should be harder than the games. Whatever it is. What's that?
Yeah, we try to make it that way.
Yeah, right. You want it so that the games are. That's the way I grew up. Saturday, we're finally playing. This is going to be great, and there's nothing that happens in that game that's going to throw you off, because you dealt with all of it, or you worked through all of it during the week. Do you? This is $1 million question from one Jersey boy to another. Do you think, or do you feel the need to go recruit out of state?
I mean, we do a little bit right now. We're doing a little bit of it,
Right.
but I think like the talent in New Jersey is so strong. It's such a talent-rich state with soccer, and I think like some of the stuff we started the conversation talking about. I think people have probably been waiting for a while for this to be an attractive program to go to. I think
Right.
because of the quality of the academics and the cost, I think we swim in a completely different recruiting bucket than a lot of other teams in our league. And on the vice versa, they can swim in a recruiting bucket that we can't swim in. Like they have their things that make them super attractive, that make them great institutions as well. I think we swim in maybe another bucket where we can make things super attractive to lots of different types of students. So I think like I think New Jersey's been waiting for kind of that stuff to happen, where this is a place that is a real destination for guys that are really trying to push their standards soccer wise and academically. We tell our guys all the time, we want our soccer to touch our academics here. We want it to be right there. Obviously academics are first, but we want the soccer to touch it. So communicating that to the right kid, the right way, to the right family, that our price is way better than maybe the price of a school that's much more, that's a similar academic standard. I think there's a market for that. We won't win all of those battles. I know that won't happen, but I do think we'll win some of them, and I think hopefully as time goes on we'll win more of them. But outside of the state, we'll look into it a little bit, because our cost in state to out of state, to be honest, isn't much different. It isn't much different. So we can go out of state. We definitely get attention out of state. But I do think a part of the DNA of our program is Jersey guys being proud to be representing New Jersey. I think that's a part of some of what we have going on right now too. So it's a little bit back and forth. We're not ever saying no to a non-Jersey guy, but I would say a majority of what we're recruiting right now is Jersey, with a sprinkle of a couple guys from out of the state.
Yeah. I'm always curious about that. Again, you said it best. It's just a talent-rich state, and realistically, you could find what you need in the state of New Jersey. I'm convinced that, but I also understand what kids bring when they come from someplace other than New Jersey. And I think the other thing you said that really struck me was that you think it's been a while where people have been waiting for TCNJ to become a place to go.
Sure.
For the academics and the soccer when they want to combine the two. And I think that's very, very true. And I think if that all aligns, oh my gosh, you're gonna have you'll have a funnel of kids just coming your way, just because TCNJ now becomes, hey, I'm really into soccer. TCNJ is on my list, right? I think that's a big deal.
We knew I think that was a part of the reason why I wanted to be here. The school stands on its own. Foundation is there.
Exactly.
It's a great school.
Exactly.
This is us our program being relevant or being exciting to be a part of. That's the icing on the cake for guys recruiting. And then the fact that the cost and the retention's high, I can develop teams in 4-year cycles. I don't have to be transfer portal crazy. I can focus on the actual development of our team from freshmen to seniors, which I think would make our team strong. I think if you look at the other teams in our country, even outside of our league, that have a lot of success, they're super academic institutions that can retain students for 4 years, and they can develop their players for 4 years. So when they're playing in Elite Eights and Sweet 16s, they're playing sophomores, junior, seniors. They're not really relying too many on freshmen, maybe 1 or 2 special guys, but that's a group that's been together. And I think people get lost on that. And I think my eyes got open to that for sure at Penn. I think when we were really pushing and we're beating maybe an ACC level team or a Big Ten team, those teams were super, super talented. I mean, excellent teams with excellent coaches. I just think our group being together for so long, I think, was a little bit of an X factor. Sometimes being able to go into those games,
totally
we're grounded, we know what we're doing, we're set, and TCNJ has that. I can develop groups in 4 years and not 1-year cycles. It's a different dynamic. So
I think that's what I'm afraid of as I watch. I mentioned before we started, I watched a lot of D1, and I can't help but notice it is, like you said, 1-year cycle, 2-year cycle where they're bringing in guys. It's just the quantity of it. And it's a different different context. You're right. Division One is a lot different. I totally get that, but to me, it's almost it misses the point. I've been asking silly questions for a while, like what is the point? Why are we doing the things that we do?
Sure.
And the whole idea about transfers and taking guys for a year because hey, that one guy for a year is going to be awesome, and then you go find the next guy. It leaves on the vine the kids who, hey, I want to commit to this school for 4 years. I don't want to run around. I want to be on the team and I want to compete and I think I can play, but I want to be there for 4 years. And I do think, to your point, I do think as you bring teams through that time period, right? Year 2, year 3 gets to be really fun because
Yep.
in the perfect world, these guys are all bought in and tied into each other emotionally, right? Like they're friend. There's a lot going on that I think elevates the game beyond
Yep.
beyond the 1 year cycle. So,
Yep.
um, who do you think's going to win the national championship? This is recorded, by the way. I've asked you a lot of questions.
I don't think I'm going to go too much into that. I think it's. I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Obviously, I watched the second half of the Tufts Bowdoin game. I thought that was a very good game. I thought both of those teams are playing quite well in it. I caught a little bit of the Emory Dickinson game, but not too much of it.
Right.
I think, like, honestly, like when the season's over, I think I'm so ultra committed and focused on getting our program right and moving forward. Not that I don't like. I'm certainly friendly with some of those guys that are still playing from a variety of circles, and I'm certainly happy if their teams do well. But I think, I'm pretty driven on getting out on the road, recruiting and watching games and getting guys on campus. And we had guys on campus the day after the NJAC final. We had guys on campus, so we're trying to push a little bit to kind of keep things moving. But I don't know, it'll be good. I mean, it's maybe a different Final Four than recently. I think it's a little spread out, more conference-wise this year, which I think is nice. But which I think will make it exciting, entertaining in a different way. Where maybe I think the last I would, and I might be wrong, but I think this is probably the first Final Four in a while that maybe not two NESCACs are in it. I'd be curious when the last one was, which again is cool in one way because you get to see two teams maybe play against one another for the second or third time. That's kind of cool, but that's that's a different dynamic in itself. But maybe when it's teams that have never played against one another, I think that's always a cool part of the NCAA tournament, right? You're playing against a team that you don't know a whole lot about. Just you're doing so much research and digging so much and putting together a good scouting report that it's kind of cool to work on somebody new, because once you're scouting somebody in your league, lots of times teams are pretty similar year to year, and there's some differences, but I think that's kind of the cool part of the NCAA tournament. So it should be a cool Final Four in that way, and I think all those teams are obviously they're super talented, right? So
I was going to ask you one more question, but another one just popped.
Sure.
Just popped in my head when in your career over the last, I'll just say since COVID, does this year seem, from a soccer perspective, and I'm leading you a little bit, but did this year seem a little bit different than the last post-COVID years? Did you notice that, right, a lot of places don't have the 50 years and all these
sure
right because that was done, because to me watching games, the parity was so much greater than I had thought it would be. And I'm just looking for either validation or somebody to tell me, stop, Paul, this is one of your insane ideas.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe hard for me because I'm transitioning from one level to another level. So it was super different for me in that way, where I'm I know the fifth year stuff was a big thing, I think, in both ways. I think Division III was kind of they were hitting on that quite well. Yeah. I think there were some schools doing a really good job getting the right fifth year guys in off their COVID year and really making their programs. But I don't know, it's to our point before, sometimes that really works, and then sometimes it really doesn't.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think like sometimes places don't have a choice. That's the only like that is the makeup of how their team
Yeah.
can be successful. So credit to those coaches that are able to do that and navigate that and find the right guys at the right time. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't. I mean, clearly it wasn't a big thing in our league this year. Like
Yeah.
fifth year guys weren't a big thing. There was definitely a couple fifth year guys in the league, and they were talented, but it wasn't
Yeah.
like a big thing.
Impactful. Yeah.
Yeah, and then and for myself in the Ivy League the last couple of years, there were no fifth years. We were dealing with guys leaving. So like a lot of
Yeah.
like guys that were like that had that COVID year, if they didn't slow down their credits, they were going to. We had one guy go to Penn State. We had one guy go to Villanova. We had one guy go to Indiana. So they were going to different places to play their fifth year elsewhere. So we weren't dealing with a lot of playing against fifth years, and we weren't taking any fifth years. So for me, it's been the same. So.
All right, one last question for you.
Sure.
And this is soccer all over. It doesn't matter which level, where, whatever. What is the one thing that we're not talking about that we should be talking about?
It's a tough question.
I only ask tough questions.
Yeah. One thing that we didn't talk about that we should have talked about.
No, it doesn't even mean about this conversation, but
Just anything, like, just in the soccer in general.
Right. So I had some people, somebody raised, mental health. Like we should be talking more about mental health and about kids and how they get through 4 years and stuff like that. So it could be anything.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. I don't know. I think like I probably alluded to it a little bit before. I don't know. I'm skewed because of what my experience was at Penn in terms of the development of players. I think like sometimes, I think as a coach, it's your job to develop people and develop players. And I think sometimes because of the way the dynamic of college soccer has turned into, it's felt like a little bit more general managey. Create good team, put good team on field. Good team maybe wins this year. Good team maybe doesn't win this year. And again, some places don't have a choice. That's the way they have to be successful. Yeah. So it's not a discredit to that stuff. And to do that and to be good at that is a whole other skill set. That's incredible. But I think for me, I think I think coaching is a lot about taking a guy in when they're younger and seeing them after 6 months, after 12 months, after 18 months, 24 months, et cetera, and seeing the growth of that player in every way. Right, we're a young team, so some of our guys had to mature. That don't mean that they were like bad guys. They just needed to grow. They need to continue to grow up and develop. And I think I can't leave them to their own devices. That's a big part of what my task is and my job is. And it's a commitment I make to their families when they're committing here that, yeah, we're going to give them a really good soccer experience, but we're also going to take care of their kids and try to make them better people and better students. So I think thinking about teams and thinking about things as a coach is I want to put together and assemble a good team, but it's also my responsibility to continue to make my team better. I think sometimes that's like people get so fixated on just the recruiting. Everything's important. I worked with somebody once that we would kind of go back and forth, and he was right. His part of it was very right, and I think my part of it was right. Mm-hmm. He always talked about like the recruiting. And I was always say, well, the development. Yeah. And I think we eventually had a coming together like, well, you could be a really good developer, but if you're not developing kids that are already pretty talented, you're probably not going to get to where you want to get to. So you gotta have both. So probably a vague answer, probably not exactly what you're looking for, but
no, that's okay.
Something to give you.
You know what? I just like opening up the can of worms. You know, like some people have things that are really present in their where, like I'm the only one talking about X or Y, like, sure. And I find myself that way all the time. I mean, I'm the guy who says I think corner kicks are not a waste of time, but are terrible goal scoring opportunities. So that ought to tell you where my mind sometimes goes. So
we lost on a corner kick this year in the Jack final. So yeah,
you know what? Like, it's not that I don't think. Okay, so can of worms. It's not that I don't think corner kicks are not valuable. I do think they are. One, I think they're poorly executed, but two, I'm not sure it's a 1 out of 10 ratio in corner kicks, and I think that's my problem. I'm like, I think we should, you should build something out of your corner kick that improves your chance to score rather than just
increasing
lumping
the percentage
it in.
of the chance. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah,
just
I think
lumping
when
it
you're if you're going to serve things, the ball
Yeah.
strikers that you're serving have to be consistent. I think all corner kicks and set pieces are dictated on the consistency
Correct.
of service. So
Correct.
yeah,
That
if you
I
don't
agree
have a guy
with.
that's
That I agree
consistent with
with.
service, then you're going to have some problems.
Yeah, that I agree with. Anyhow, we won't go down that route anymore.
Sure.
Because it's people remind me, like, you're the guy who said corner kicks are not worthwhile. It's never what I said. But all right, Coach, I do appreciate you taking the time. This was fantastic. I wish your men all the best in the spring, and who knows, you might see me on the sideline.
That'd be great.
At Lions Stadium, since it's 25 minutes from home. So
that'd be
maybe we
awesome,
catch a
yeah.
coffee one of these days. Since you're in Lawrenceville, are you still in
Yeah.
Lawrenceville? You're in
Yeah,
Lawrenceville?
yeah. I live very close to Ryder. Yeah.
Yo. Yeah. All right. Well, we might have to connect for coffee one of these days.
Sure. Sounds
all
good.
right. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Sounds good.
Talk soon.